Hello, it's me. So, when should one concern themselves with a person's gayness? Should I care about somebody being gay? No. No, I shouldn't. Not only is it not my business, I really don't give a monkey's what you do in your bedroom. I've had experience with gayness. Steady on. I've known many gays. And there have been good gays and bad gays. And when I say good gays and bad gays, what I'm ostensibly referring to is it takes all kinds. There's good and bad everywhere. On the screen behind me, we've got the gay secret of Starmer's gay secret, the plot exposed. Kier Starmer's sexual orientation. However, there are circumstances when you should concern yourselves with a person's private life. Not in any salacious form, you understand? No. Merely to ascertain whether the person you're dealing with is in fact a straight shooter. And I'm sure there's a gay joke in there somewhere, but let's not bother, eh? And in this particular instance, how it pertains to state affairs. In the West, we have a long tradition of voting into power good Christian men, straight men, heterosexual men with Christian values. Men who are morally stout, who know the difference between right and wrong, and therefore, armed with all these moral credentials, they can advise and proclaim how we, the proletariat, the great and lost, should live our lives. But we have an issue. On the left of the screen there, you'll see a piece about Tony Blair. And he's been the subject of persistent allegations. And as far as I know, they are just allegations. But dare I say it, smoke and fire? He was charged with a crime under the pseudonym Charles Linton in the 1970s or the 1980s. Specifically for cottaging. Now, cottaging is a rather euphemistic term for men who, and I think I've got this correct, men who are looking for other men, shall we say, in, I was going to say floral areas, but, woods, parks. And I don't know why the word cottaging is suitable or became a thing, but hey. A term historically used for soliciting sex in public toilets. According to these claims, Blair allegedly used his middle names, Charles Linton, to conceal his identity during a court appearance and was fined £500 or £50 according to some sources. Now, if he's gay, if this is true, then is his marriage a marriage of convenience? And I'm being kind there. Why is the Pete Doherty lookalike Cherie Blair married to a gay man? She might indeed herself be gay. It may be a marriage of cover. Ooh, that's all a bit cloak and dagger, isn't it, eh? So what if he's gay and she's gay and they got together in order to rise the public ladder to power? But no, the suspicions are slightly more interesting. And in terms of intelligence and espionage, would make a fine John le Carré novel. So let's just speculate, shall we? Tony Charles Linton Blair is gay. But he has ambition. And in the very Christian and upright, moral Western tradition, he understands that as a gay individual, he can't easily rise to power. And so, what does he do? He finds a woman who he can marry, yada, 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 the rest is history. But what if there's more to this than meets the eye? What if in actual fact, Cherie Blair is his CIA handler, as has been muted in various corners of the internet for many years now? What if this marriage of convenience is in fact a marriage built on state espionage and statecraft? I said in a previous video, conspiracy acts in patterns. And here we have a pattern. And if you're looking, it's not that difficult to see. And that's why these videos come into existence. Because people take an interest in individuals in power. And then they start looking into their backgrounds and things just become apparent. There's no magic to it. It's just research. And so Tony Blair rose to power, but he was a captured man. Cherie Blair was the woman appointed to handle him, to steer him, to make sure he was saying what whoever it was who controls Tony Blair wanted him to say and do. Tony Blair has just been appointed to the Gaza Peace Board, and one wonders what he will be charged with executing during his term in that seat. And so as we cross the pond to the US, we ask ourselves, is this extant anywhere else? Barack Obama, is he also of the same stamp as Tony Blair? Do they both bat from the same wicket, play for the same team? And if so, does that make Michelle Obama a handler? If we look across the water to France, we see Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte Macron, who is having her own difficulties right now. If you're unsure about what I'm talking about, please look up Candace Owens. It's really quite entertaining, frankly. Not as entertaining as the fact that every now and again Emmanuel Macron shows up with a black eye, or because apparently Brigitte Macron likes the Marquis of Queensberry's rules. Oh, God. But in the Macron's case, and again, everything I'm about to say is alleged, I have no personal proof of this, of course, but is Emmanuel Macron who he appears to be? Because certainly Brigitte Macron doesn't appear who she seems to be. And this leads me nicely to Kier Starmer. Kier Starmer has had rumblings, murmurings, rumours, slurs, accusations, allegations of gayness attached to him. Specifically 3 young models who apparently he is, or has rather, enjoyed recreational time with. And if this is in fact true, if Kier Starmer is in fact gay, on a personal level, fine, great, more power to his elbow. Be gay. But it appears as though his gayness is being shielded in rather the same way that Tony Blair's was shielded from the public. We're hearing stories of the strain between Kier Starmer and his wife, that they're growing ever further apart, which kind of spoils my theory a little bit. Or does it? There is such a thing as a honeypot trap, which spies use all the time to capture individuals in an illicit sexual tryst. Usually these individuals are married, they're straight, and then they're enticed into having a one-night stand. The one-night stand is covertly filmed. Hey presto, you've got your man. Maybe the intelligence services concerned understood that he had a specific leaning, sexually speaking. Put him in a position where he was having a good time with 3 fit men, which was then filmed, and hey presto, Kier Starmer is now a captured individual. And maybe in this particular case, Kier Starmer's wife isn't part of the statecraft. Hence why we have this recurring story of a looming separation. But that won't do for a British Prime Minister. We need our leaders to be powerful, to be solid individuals, the kind of individuals that you can depend on. And as we look across the world at the various leaders of the various countries that are currently engaged in the various political shenanigans that characterize our geopolitical situation right now, we have to ask ourselves how many of these leaders are indeed their own person, not influenced or captured by state players who have other agendas, which don't include the people or citizens of the countries that these powerful individuals are governing. But hey ho, it's all a fairy tale. There's nothing to see here, because this can only be done with the tacit complicity of the various news agencies that disseminate the news in their respective countries. The equation is complex and yet simple, elegant and brutal. I can't escape the feeling that he's being pressed. Any other man in his position would most likely have just bowed out. But he can't. He's got a job to do. And those people who are working him from behind, no pun intended, are going to see that the job gets done. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe and share. It really would help the channel. And until next time, do look after yourselves.